All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating paradox. We're going to explore why emotional detachment is actually your absolute greatest asset when you're building a business or putting together an investment portfolio. Now, usually we associate success with, extreme passion, right? Like this unyielding attachment to a goal. But today we're looking at source material that completely flips that script. It argues that true emotional resilience, it actually comes from stepping back.
Okay, so let's just dive right into this by asking a pretty tough question right up front. Think of it as a quick mindset audit. What actually happens to you when things just don't go as planned? What happens when your business fails? If your immediate reaction is absolute pit-in-your-stomach dread, hey, you're not alone. But the source material we're digging into today argues that if you're terrified of things that haven't even happened yet, well, that fear is going to actively pull your business down. Or, honestly, it might just prevent you from ever starting in the first place. So how do we actually overcome that fear? Well, we're going to use this explainer as a chronological guide through 5 phases of business growth. We'll start with phase 1, the trap of attachment, then move to 2, the core shift, letting go. After that, 3, navigating the highs, 4, surviving the lows, and finally, phase 5, the long-term mindset.
Let's just jump right into phase 1, the trap of attachment. This is hands down the biggest hurdle most people face right out of the gate. It's all about being way too attached to the end result, which, let's be real, usually means being far too attached to making money right away.
The whole foundation of our source material rests on this specific definition of emotional detachment. It's a profound acceptance that a venture could go one of 2 ways. It could prosper, or it could absolutely fail. If you're too attached to that final outcome being this immediate glowing success story, you completely lose sight of the present moment. True detachment, by the way, isn't about not caring. Actually, scratch that. It's more like accepting the binary risk of success or failure and then redirecting literally all of your energy solely into the actions you can execute right now.
And here's why that detachment is basically mathematically necessary. The outcome is largely out of your control anyway. As the source material points out, there's just no absolute assurance of success in any business. I mean, we saw this starkly illustrated during the COVID-19 pandemic, right? It wasn't just tiny, bootstrapped startups that struggled. We're talking massive, globally recognized brands that were forced to close their doors. Why? Because unforeseeable events happen. There are forces completely, 100% beyond your control. And if you aren't emotionally prepared for that level of inherent risk, you really aren't ready to be in business.
So if the ultimate result, whether you prosper or not, is, as the source puts it, simply up to the universe, where do you actually direct your energy? Well, that brings us to phase 2, the core shift, letting go.
Listen, your actual job is not to furiously try to control the universe to force a specific outcome. No way. Your job is to focus entirely on daily actionable steps, the stuff you actually can control. You can set up the business. If you're an investor, you can promote the company. You can use their products. And above all, you can be the absolute best you can be in this exact present moment. You basically do everything in your power, but you completely release your grip on the final tally.
To kind of normalize this reality for us, the source brings up a fantastic point about the absolute titans of industry. Think about it. Billionaires like Warren Buffett and the late Charlie Munger, they have had plenty of failed investments over the years. Things definitely did not always prosper for them. But did they sit around and cry over those losses? Absolutely not. Because from day one, they accepted the risk. They did the math, executed in the present, and just let the chips fall where they may.
Okay, but what happens when things actually go right? Let's move into phase 3, navigating the highs. Because, surprisingly enough, peaks can be just as dangerous to an attached ego as the lows. Success creates this really stark dichotomy. When a business hits a high, an emotionally attached mindset immediately wants to celebrate and, show off. They start burning cash on extravagant parties, or maybe they go out and buy a Lamborghini. In investing, this looks like pure greed, just buying more out of sheer FOMO, the fear of missing out. But a detached mindset, they view a peak entirely differently. They see it as a highly calculated opportunity. They're sitting there asking, okay, how can I control this peak moment to reinvest and sustainably grow this business?
The source actually explicitly warns against that greedy temptation to pull your money out just because you're temporarily turning a profit. When you get that rush of dopamine from a quick win, the attached brain is screaming cash out, but the detached mind remembers the golden rule here. True investing requires long-term patience. It's for sure not some get-rich-quick scheme just to fund a weekend party. But hey, what goes up must eventually come down, right? And that brings us to the ultimate test, Phase 4, navigating the lows.
When you hit a low, the attached individual feels it like a deep personal failure. They get totally defeated, scared to make a move, basically paralyzed by the deficit. Conversely, the detached investor, they see a low simply as data. They recalibrate. They adjust their strategy. In fact, if the fundamentals of the company haven't changed, like, the CEO hasn't gone bankrupt or a war hasn't started, they actually use those market dips to position themselves at a far better value. They buy the dip because they aren't blinded by all the panic. To really bring this to life, the source shares this incredible, super relatable anecdote. The speaker talks about his younger brother who took out a loan to start this short, 3-day side gig. Well, by day 2, total disaster struck. They faced unexpected trials and fell completely into a deficit. Now, the attached reaction would have been to panic, quit, and just default on the loan. But instead, the brother followed these exact steps. First, he took a step back to detach from the emotion. Second, he calculated his next moves logically. And third, he executed a brand new plan. He didn't let the low moment defeat him. And by doing that, he not only paid back the loan, but he actually turned a small profit. Guys, that is emotional resilience in action.
Which brings us to our fifth and final phase, the long-term mindset. This is the continuous, ongoing requirement for navigating both those booming highs and crushing lows.
Whether your business is literally printing money or your portfolio is just deep, deep in the red, your primary objective is to maintain a relentless hunger for growth. And we aren't just talking about financial growth here, it means personal growth too. It's about constantly learning how to invest smarter, how to manage better, and how to constantly refine your skills. Because honestly, if you aren't growing your knowledge base, your business cannot possibly grow beyond you.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought to audit your own emotional readiness. If you take a calculated risk tomorrow and it instantly falls into a deficit, are you going to take it personally and cry over the loss? Or will you step back, detach from that outcome, and logically recalibrate your next move? Your answer to that question might just be the absolute most accurate predictor of your future success.